Sure.
Cool. All right, Dave, we'll do a flowery introduction in the post stuff, so we'll just jump right in here and we'll get cranking. It'll be really nice. Trust me. Appreciate it. All right.
I like just jumping
Here
right
we
in.
go.
Let's do this.
Yeah, we're doing it. All right, here we go. 3, 2. Well, Dave, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I guess my first question is, as scouts here, we'd love to know the scouting report going back to RBV to Rancho Buena Vista. Dave Roberts, the quarterback. We want the scouting report on Dave Roberts, the quarterback. We need a comparison. We need to know about the skill set. What do we got?
Very light arm. It's definitely Tua very light. Could really run. Could see the field. Play action really good. Could sell fakes. Mechanics good. Plus runner. Team leader. But certainly Tua very light.
I love it. So, Dave, you go on from there and you walk on to UCLA's baseball team. I'm really fascinated by the mentality and the mindset. What led you to walk on, and how did you earn your way onto the roster and then become a draftable baseball player?
You know what's interesting? I think to your question, it's more of betting on yourself, and I bet on myself, and I just figured that I had an appointment to go to the Air Force Academy. I was going to play football for Fish at Berry and run the option. And then so as we get into July, I decided, you know what, I've already had one ACL reconstruction. I want to play baseball. And then so I basically knocked on UCLA and Coach Adams' door and said, I want to play baseball. And so it's one of those things where it's worst case scenario, you're going to get a UCLA degree. But honestly, guys, it's just like you guys see players all the time, and that intangible in guys that just bet on themselves.
Talk about betting on yourself. We hear the word grit a lot. We use it a lot. I know every sport uses it. But the grit you showed to be able, as a player, to be able to kind of grind through, not just as a walk-on, but really kind of a long career there in the minor leagues. What was it every year that kept your eye on the prize to keep fighting the way you did?
I think, yeah, you said, DJ, it's like keeping your eye on the prize. And I didn't know what the term grit meant, at that point in time, because people even used it back then. But that passion and perseverance for a long-term goal. Brene Brown coined that term or that definition, and I admire her. But understanding where you want to get to, and then just continuing to grind. And there were certainly days that I wanted to walk away and felt it just wasn't going to be right for me. But I think I look back, and every single day I love going to the ballpark and competing. And I think that right there, and just that desire to keep trying to get better and hopefully get that opportunity to play at the highest level.
In your background, because you were a multi-sport star, you were able to settle in baseball. But how did your diverse background in athletics help you when you did decide to be a baseball player, a full-time baseball player?
What it's interesting is that's the thing about, with football and basketball and baseball that I played. The basketball, you're running lines, you're doing the suicides, you're playing defense. It's all about defense to create offense. In football, you got to go head up. And I remember playing bull in the ring, where I was the only guy in the ring, and you had all these guys coming one at a time, and then the coach calling the number. And then you have baseball, where you fail 7 out of 10 times, and it makes you a better baseball player. So, and learning to deal with failure. So all those things made me a better baseball player, in my opinion. So that's what's interesting now, is that you guys see people that now people are just more specific, whether it's football, it's volleyball, it's soccer, it's basketball, it's baseball. And so that's kind of the difference where our time when we grew up.
Yeah, Dave, I'm glad you brought that up, because I've heard you use the phrase showcase players. We were talking to Urban Meyer about this, because we're passionate about guys playing multiple sports. And he used the phrase spandex quarterbacks. And in other words, these guys play football, and then you get to the spring, and they're in spandex 7-on-7 tournaments all over the place, where we went to basketball and then to baseball. Do you see it, like when you've been around now on the manager side of things, do you see a difference from guys at the major league level that have all these different sports backgrounds versus the guys that specialize at a young age?
What's funny is I do. I do, and he's exactly right. I guess I like that spandex player. That's pretty funny. But I tell our scouting directors, our team president with baseball operations, I want quarterbacks, and I love the multi-purpose player. And I think the quarterback is a guy that is a team leader. can see the field, looks for the benefit of others. But certainly for me, the skill set to play baseball, the hit tool, the power, the arm strength, the fielding, the speed, those certainly things make sense. But to be honest with you, those showcase players, when you need to drive a run in the ninth inning, tie score, infield back, and need to put the ball in play, that 550-foot home run and the guy looks good in uniform, I just want a ground ball. There's players that look good on paper, but there's also players that help you win baseball games. So I think that there's a marriage and a combo with obviously the analytics, the projection, which is very, very hard. And you guys know, scouting is one of the hardest things to do in all of sports and to project. But for me on the field, it's my job to develop and make players reach their full potential.
And thinking about that, because you kind of touched on the analytics. In football, we're beginning to see analytics not only make its way onto the field, but also in the evaluation process. As a manager, though, when you're evaluating players, how much of it is the eyeball test and the feel that you get as opposed to what the data reflects?
Well, I'll tell you this, though. Analytics has been a part of sports since the beginning of sports. And, whether it's, we're running wide left and, student body left in Green Bay, student body right, you still have a number on how much we're going to do that. But Lombardi wanted to run it and run it well, and I'll put my 11 against your 11, and we're going to be better. But I think that with baseball and football and basketball, all these sports, there's certain tendencies that people have done. And now we just can quantify it. But for me, I just want as much information as I can. But ultimately, it's your gut, it's your eyes. And in one particular moment, you can take all the information that you've had. But to be honest with you, whether the play is executed, whether it's not, whether the pitch is made, whether it's not, whether this hitter's can get this pitcher out, that's essentially a flip of a coin. So now you got to bake in the eyes and how the player's feeling right there, what's led up to that particular moment, and also the information.
Is there a sweet spot there, Dave, in terms of maybe some teams are too far analytic driven, maybe some teams are too far, kind of that gut feel, old school scouting driven? Have you been able to find kind of that sweet spot where you can put it all together at just the right dosage?
We're still working on it. And I think that, it's funny is that the sweet spot is, as I've learned as a manager, the sweet spot is when it works. The process and everything can be right and you can believe in it. But if it doesn't work, then it was wrong. So I don't believe in that, obviously. But I think that it's just more of the conversations. I have the scouts in my office all the time, and I encourage our players to talk to scouts. I'm talking to the front office. I'm talking to my coaches. I'm talking to players. And I think that whether it's Clayton Kershaw, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, or Cody Bellinger, or Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, who we just acquired, certain guys are just outliers, and you can basically just bet on who they are as an athlete, and you throw them out. And some guys you can't. Some guys at 90 pitches, his stuff falls off. Some guys, when it gets to the goal line, he can't push the pile, and you need that guy with 20 extra pounds to be the goal line back. That's just the way it goes. But that goes with coaching and conversations.
Dave, it's funny that you talk about relationships and communication, because one of the things that I've heard about you is because you guys have been really heavily analytic driven, that you've had to really manage the relationship with the players to get them to have a complete buy-in. Talk about the importance of trust and communication when you are trying to make decisions that are in the best interest of the team, but you're dealing with players who are used to playing every day.
Well, that's a constant, I wouldn't say struggle. It's a constant challenge. It's something that I got to keep front of mind. I think the thing is that I have to always remember what it's like to be a player. When you're a coach, you have to remember that. And secondly, all the time I let players know our goal is to win baseball games, and winning is the most important thing. So when you have a lot of good players, players want to take care of their families. They want to perform. They want the opportunity. They always feel that they're the best option, which I love. And you never want to change that. But I do think that to play for a champion, there's got to be sacrifice. And I think that for us, that's something we talk about. And just giving guys opportunities, when I can, and kind of make guys feel relevant and empowered. But it's tough because I think for me, as you guys might have heard, I try to touch every player every single day. And you see, I was on a podcast with Pete Carroll and Steve Kerr a couple weeks ago, and Pete Carroll's a guy that's going up and down the sidelines, patting guys on the butt, and just a little something. I think that goes a long way when you're a leader of men or women, and so just a little bit that head coach or that manager can let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. I still believe in you. I still need you, and that little bit keeps guys going. But I think for me, it's the consistency of having those conversations.
Yeah, I think that's just pure leadership is what it is, Dave. I love that. We've been talking a lot about being able to come back. We've used that kind of as a theme, and we're talking more about that. As a country, we see it now. We're trying to come back. Hopefully sports are going to be coming back. But you're such a great example of this. And we go back to that Red Sox series, down 3-0, you steal the base. Everybody knows the story. You guys come back and win that series. What's the mindset that needs to be there in order to make a comeback?
It's living in the moment, and it's living in the present, and looking back is noise. Looking forward and expectations brings anxiety and nerves. But I think that when you're in the present, you're in the moment. I take the field. Curt Schilling takes the mound. Pedro takes the mound. Tom Brady, comes out of the huddle. You're trying to execute one play, and I think that when you can do that, and people talk about it, but it's not rhetoric. It's real. And when you can kind of get to the micro and not the macro and eliminate that noise, I think it just gives you the best chance to perform. And I think for me, in my particular case, I went from a starter from LA as a first place team to a bench guy, and you had to wait for your opportunity. And I prepared. I watched video. I worked on things, and I was a good teammate when I needed to be. But when my opportunity came, I was ready. When it presented, I was ready for it.
And expanding upon that, you talk about being able to come back. You led the Dodgers to back-to-back World Series. You guys fell up on the short end of the stick in both of those. How do you bounce back from those moments? Because we have NFL teams like the San Francisco 49ers who went to the Super Bowl and were winning with 7 minutes left, and then it falls apart. What is the mindset and the mentality to come back from a big disappointment to still get back and maybe be able to change the result the following year?
It's not easy. It's not easy. And yeah, I've managed for 4 years, and losing twice in the World Series, Division Series, NLCS. And so it's not easy. But I think that it's something that people don't understand, to go all the way up the mountain and to give everything you have for 8 months, and, to then lose, to then have to have that grit or that, intestinal fortitude or whatever you want to call it, to get back up there individually, collectively, to go back up that mountain that is not guaranteed to get to the top is not easy. But I think that I'm fortunately blessed with a lot of great coaches, front office, and players, most important, that we're synced up, and we got a tough group of guys, and understand that we failed in the sense of we don't have that ring. But I still think that over the last 4 years we've won more baseball games than any team in the big leagues, and I think that there's something to be said for that. But yeah, we're all kind of defined by championships and rings, and especially when you're in Los Angeles and you got to deal with Magic Johnson, who's the king of all the rings. So, man, the bar is certainly high, but I love that, and we're going to get there.
Well, one of the things I love what you guys did in the offseason, Dave, you mentioned about Mookie Betts coming over. I work for the Baltimore Ravens, and you see them have an unbelievable regular season last year, best team in football. It didn't go the way they wanted in the postseason. And so faced with the choice of, let's just bring everybody back, we're good enough, we just need to iron out a couple things in the postseason, they go out and they get a Calais Campbell. They're very aggressive in the draft. They went out and got Derek Wolfe. They drafted 2 linebackers because they gave up all those rushing yards against Derrick Henry and the Titans. And you guys, again, that unbelievable regular season would have been easy to say, hey, we just need to come back, fix a couple things, and we roll. But here you guys just continue to add more great players. What is that kind of mindset of, hey, this is good, but it's not good enough?
Yeah, that's really good, and that's a slippery slope, because, if that whole adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and understanding that, yeah, we didn't win the World Series, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's broke. We still won 106 baseball games and still had a lot of talent. But I think that, getting the right people in that mix in with the culture that you've created, I think is paramount. And obviously, you look at Mookie Betts, his baseball card. It's easy to say that his character fits when you look at the baseball card. But Mookie is a better man and teammate than he is a baseball player, if you can even imagine that. We acquired David Price as well. So, and Blake Trinan is another guy. And I think that the important thing is that when you have a culture in place, and that's the chicken or the egg, is it winning breeds culture, culture breeds winning? But all I can tell you is that at the Dodgers, we have a great winning culture, and it's important for us to bring in the right guys. So when you are going to kind of subtract some pieces, you have to be certain that the talent matches up. But I think more importantly, that the makeup has to be a marriage. And this is going to be interesting because we had a few weeks of spring training. And now we've been quarantined with obviously this pandemic. So to now go back and hopefully I got my fingers crossed that we're playing baseball here in a few weeks, that you got to bet on the 3 weeks we had and then now the 17 days that we have to kind of get back together to now go into a season. So I don't want to be long-winded, but people have asked me, if we do get this season going, is there going to be an asterisk with this season? And my counter is it's actually harder this year to kind of people going away, being isolated, kind of keeping their mind, their body sharp to then get back into to play an abbreviated season where now it's a sprint for baseball players in 81 games, whatever the number. And then to ultimately hold that trophy up, that's a bigger, just as big of an accomplishment in my opinion.
Dave, I want to go back to your high school career and lean on some of your experience as a quarterback, because we've seen these baseball players that have transitioned to the National Football League and have a lot of success. Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes, Kyler Murray. What do you think they've been able to learn from their experiences in baseball that have really enabled them to be franchise quarterbacks that have been able to play at a high level very early in their careers?
I think there's a couple things. I think for me, playing football, it was the competition, the two-a-days. Our coaches back then weren't worrying about us being too hydrated. So it was hot. We were running, and it didn't matter. So, and parents couldn't come out and get a coach fired from high school. That didn't happen. So I think just the toughness of putting on gear and getting hit in the mouth and getting back up, going back to the huddle, counting on people around you. I mean, when you're a quarterback and you're counting on guys, if not, you're going to get you're going to get it handed to you. And I think, going from two-a-days to then going to summer ball or going to practice and playing basketball and just suiting up and trying to catch up with those guys that are just the basketball players or just the football players. I just think that there's just certain things that just make you better. And like I said earlier is, you got a 90-mile-an-hour fastball under your chin and you still got to stay in there. And that guy's going to probably throw that slider. And, whether it's Calvin Murray, it's Pat Mahomes, it's like they've been there. And you'd be surprised how many of those 300-pound linemen don't want to get hit by a little white ball. So it's just interesting. So I think that to be able to have done that and to stand in that batter's box and see 90 or get hit by 90 and still have to take that next at bat or take a bad hop off the chin and still keep your head down and catch that baseball. Those are little subtleties, but I think that help make you a well-rounded athlete. And I think that's what you guys, you want that athlete, and that checks those boxes. But that athlete, man, I'll take that athlete who is tough any day.
I love it. Dave, you've been very generous with your time. This is the last question I've got for you. We look at this Dodger team as it's constructed right now. The most important question, who would be the best football player on the Dodgers? Who do you got?
All right, I love that. That's a great question. I'm going to see when my boys tune into this, I'm going to get some ribbing. So, Jock Peterson was a wide receiver, but I just don't see it. The foot speed, so but he's got great hands, but I don't think he can create separation. The easy answer is Mookie in the slot. I just trust that he can get separation. I kind of liken him to like a Wes Welker type. Um, so I think that I'm probably missing somebody right now, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Mookie Betts.
Okay, that's chalk. I mean, that was easy, Dave.
It's Chuck. I know.
That was
See,
that was an
you
easy one.
buckled me with the question because I wish I would have bet because I know I'm shortchanging somebody. We had, Yasiel Puig for my first 3 years, 4 years, and so
Oh, yeah.
he fits the mold of the body, um, but he's very linear. But yeah, but you know what? I probably could have done better, but you can't go wrong with Mookie Betts.
Yeah, I was gonna go. I was thinking Bellinger had like some Ed McCaffrey in him. You know, you never know. You never know.
Okay, see, I like that. See, there you go. See, Cody wasn't a football player, so, and I'm going to put him on blast right now, and he couldn't play on the defensive side of football. So he's an offensive player. He puts on some weight. I could see him being like an Eddie McCaffrey. I like that because he's long, he's fast. I like that he's got great hands too. I love that. Good call.
Oh, that was great. Hey, man, this has been so much fun for us, Dave. I know we're all hopeful we get baseball back here soon, as well as all these other sports. But it was just great to catch up with you. Thank you for your time.
All right, fellas. Thanks for having me.
That was great. Thank you, Dave. That was awesome.
Thanks, Dave.
All
Really
good.
appreciate it. It's awesome.
I lost the return on my monitor. Did you guys lose it?
I didn't. I had it. It was up
Okay,
the whole
good.
time.